Let's make it happen. Yo, so we're back with another entrepreneurship support group. I'm here in the jungle. Uh, JK, just my backyard. Thank the Lord that I have a backyard. But today we're talking about nonprofits, and specifically, we're talking about your board of directors, why it's required, what is the point of having a board of directors, and how to go about selecting your board of directors. So I'm going to hop right in and give you guys some key roles and responsibilities that, well, I guess why you should have a board of directors in your nonprofit.
Okay, not why you should have, why you have to have.
Facts. Absolutely. Why you have to have a board of directors. We can even start there. It's required when you're starting a nonprofit, depending on the state, is going to determine how many board members. For example, in the New England area, in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, you only need 3 board members, president, vice president, accountant. States like Florida, I believe you need like six board members. So it just varies on your state, but each state requires, sorry, it's not Florida. I believe it's Cali. If Cali needs 6. But each state has a requirement on how many board members you have. So you have to have a team of people around you. Like we talked about team building and having people who do different things. But some of the roles and responsibilities, the first one is the mission and the vision. So just defining the organization's mission and the long-term vision. That's what your board of directors is there to do. So if you have people on the board who aren't aligned with that mission and vision, it's going to cause some problems. All right, you got to know that going into it. Number 2, strategic planning. So just planning, by definition, developing and approving the organization's strategic plan and ensuring that it aligns with the mission. Number 3, the governance. So that is establishing and implementing policies, procedures, and the governance structures that guide the organization's operations. So are we legally sound? Are we covering our butts to make sure we don't get sued, make sure we actually file our articles every year, or file our every year you have to file and share with the state your, not your profit loss sheet, but you have to submit a multitude of documents. So are you making sure you're in accordance with that so you're not getting fined? Number 4, financial oversight, right? Monitoring the organization's financial health, approving budgets, and ensuring sound fiscal management.
I'm going to tell you to pause right there because that one's especially important because obviously finances are important and an LLC as well. But with nonprofits, especially if you're taking donations, that financial oversight is much more important because you can't be collecting money for certain things and then using it for something different. That's a whole legal mess waiting to happen.
And that financial oversight like goes with that governance too, because if you're not following those procedures and doing what you say you're going to do with the money as what's listed with, when you incorporate it, you can get into some trouble with that, a lot of trouble with that. Number 5, fundraising and resource management, assisting with the fundraising efforts and resource development to support the organization's programs and initiatives. Excuse me. Number 6, executive leadership and oversight, hiring, evaluating, and supporting the executive director or the CEO of the organization. Risk management and compliance, identifying and addressing potential risk and ensuring compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. Kind of in line with that number 4, financial oversight for sure. Accountability and evaluation, holding the organization accountable for its performance and assessing its impact and fulfilling its mission. And public relations and advocacy, promoting the organization's mission and building relationships with stakeholders and the community. So just 9 general things that your board of directors is going to be responsible for: the mission and vision, strategic planning, governance, financial oversight, fundraising and resource management, executive leadership oversight, risk management and compliance, accountability and evaluation, public relation and advocacy. I don't think one person can do all of that. And if they are doing all of that, they are spread very thin, which is why it's very important that you have a group of people, a board member or a board to handle a lot of this stuff, to delegate a lot of this stuff.
Or they could be actual real life Marvel superheroes.
Nah, they could be. They could be. I don't know if I think out of all the superheroes, I think Peter Parker is probably the only one that I would trust. Maybe Tony Stark, because I mean he is Iron Man, you know, Batman too. Those guys are geniuses, but everybody else I don't know. But but anywho, so that's a little bit why you need or I guess what the board of directors is for and their roles and kind of the things that they do. So now as we transition
I was
into
gonna say, hold on, before you transition, I was gonna say,
yeah,
in
for sure.
some ways, it's like a government. There's a checks and balances system. You have people that are in control, but you have other branches that make sure that you're doing the right things.
Mm.
Or at least the way it's supposed to be set up. But
Yeah,
but
especially in
it's the same
alignment with
type
the
of,
mission.
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're good. The less I talk, the better my voice will eventually get.
So now we're going to talk about how to go about selecting your board of directors. As we mentioned, those are a lot of things that are covered, right? Like when it comes to like roles and responsibilities. So you want to make sure you're finding individuals and vetting individuals who you feel like can be an asset. And I guess I'll go off into a little tangent and let me know if I'm getting long-winded. One of the things why I like that we're doing this is because there a lot of times, and I have friends who have done this. They started a nonprofit, and what they did was they just put their mom, their brother, their cousin, whoever, as their board of directors. So now as this organization begins to grow, or as this organization tries to go, like they did it just to check the
Just
boxes.
to
Oh,
fill
we
spaces.
yeah. Oh, we need a board of directors. Oh, let me get my mom, my cousin, and these guys to fill these spaces. And it's like, I feel you. Yeah, okay. You check the box, but like, what about all these other boxes that need to be checked? You gonna do it yourself? Like, are these active members of the board? Like, is this really gonna get you to your long-term goal, or is this just a short-term play? And that's not to say that your board members can't have terms. We can kind of talk about that in the next segment, but I would just advise everybody out there, do not get your brother, sister, cousin, mom, dad to sit on your board unless they're going to be active board members. Well, I don't think we're going to talk about it today, but when you're setting up the structure, your government, right, there's going to be checks and balances that are made, and you don't want to be an organization that somehow you get kicked out of your own organization because the board is voting on certain things, and it just becomes a mess. You know, it just becomes a mess when you're not doing it for the right reasons and you're not setting it up in the right way.
Well, and it's one of those things that lends itself to those high failure rates for entrepreneurs. If you try to cheat the process, you are going to fail. You can't just skip to the top trying to get things done because you want to move fast. You have to actually take your time and work through the details and get the details right, so that as you build and grow, everything is in place to follow through with that. You're not setting up roadblocks or situations where you can't get anything done.
Mhm. So now we're transitioning to how you go about selecting your board members. These are just some general steps that you can take. The first one is identify the skill and expertise need. So determine the skills, the expertise, and the experience your organization needs on its board and to effectively fulfill its mission and objectives. So just like we talked about, starting a business in general, building your team, what are the skills that you need to build your team to achieve your mission, and then find people who have those skill sets, and put them in those places.
Well, and that's when I was reading the Maverick Method, and this is more like along the business line, but it fits with this. Like the book was saying, like create your job descriptions. Like figure out what that job is, what you need that job to do, and then what skills are required for that job. Because if you have all of those pieces already ready to go, sorry, coach's voice, I hate it.
Sounds
If
like
you
Doc
have
Rivers.
if you have those pieces already ready to go, when your business is now official, you know exactly what you're looking for.
Now you're not scrambling. Oh, I need this person for this and this person for this. And
But I
you're,
don't actually know what I need from that person or what I need in that person.
yeah. The second one, I'm not sure if it should actually be number 2, but reach out to potential candidates. Look for individuals who are passionate about your cause, have relevant expertise, and are willing to commit their time and effort. Number 3, networking and referrals. So leverage your network and seek referrals from existing board members, donors, and supporters to identify potential candidates. Number 4, interview and evaluate candidates. Conduct interviews with potential board members, assess their commitment, alignment with the organization's values, and ability to contribute to the organization's goal.
If those are your 3 and your 4, it actually does make sense that it's number 2, because you're starting with the people that you know. You're starting with like your immediate network, not that network extended. And if you already know people that would work well in those roles, it does make sense to reach out to the people that you know first before you start taking referrals. Because while referrals and reaching out to your network, that extended network, that's great. But all of those people don't necessarily pan out. You don't really know what you're getting until sometimes, I mean, somebody may look great on paper or in an interview, but then you get further down the line and you're like, oh, this was not the best fit. And so it actually does make sense that you start with your base, because the idea being that you know that base better because you've seen them in action. You've hopefully known them for years, and you know a lot more about their background and who they are and what they're about and how they work.
Yeah, for sure. And starting out, most nonprofits don't have big banks, so I think it's going to be a lot harder for I'll just say for me to go to some major university, say, hey, you want to come sit on my board? we have no donors lined up. We got no nothing. We're just starting from scratch. Now, that's not to say you won't get a qualified person, but let's start with your immediate circle of influence.
Well, and let's be real. People these days want to see the reward. They don't want to put in the work. They want the reward first. So it is better in that sense. It is harder to find those people who are willing to sit through the process to get the reward.
Number 5, diversity and inclusion. Strive to create a diverse and inclusive board that reflects the community you serve, as diverse perspectives can enhance decision-making and effectiveness. Number 6, board orientation.
Hold on, let's pause there. And the visual that I immediately think of when you're talking about diversity, and in some ways, this is another one that relates to government. If you, depending on what your organization is, but like, let's say you are an organization that is trying to help underserved communities. It doesn't matter who you are starting it, but I'm picturing a bunch of older, rich white men on that board don't make sense because they can't connect to that community. They don't know what that community needs. They may have resources, but if they aren't really working for the best interests of that community from a relatable standpoint, it doesn't help you accomplish your mission.
That's good. The impact that you can make.
Yeah.
Influence the impact. Board orientation and training. Once selected, provide board members with orientation and ongoing training to help them understand their roles and responsibilities. Number 7, term limits and rotation. Consider implementing term limits and rotations to ensure fresh perspectives and a continuous influx of talent.
Don't move on there either, because my example for this in some ways would be the Supreme Court. Because the more comfortable you get in a position, and if you know that you can't be booted out, it's very easy to lose the why and what you're doing, especially when you get to the point, if you are one of those nonprofits that is bringing in a lot of money, motives get messy, they get confused. And if there's no way to stop you from being in that position and doing what you're doing, you have less incentive to continue to follow the rules and do things the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And term limits doesn't mean you can't, I mean, well, term limits themselves do, but like, depending on how you set it up, you could set it up so that you can continue to reelect the same people if their mission and if what they're doing still falls in line with your mission, how
Mm-hmm.
you set that up, but giving them a limit and knowing that they can, if they aren't doing the right things, there is an expiration date,
Yeah.
gives you a higher chance of success.
Mm-hmm. And piggybacking right off of that, number 8, board evaluation. Regularly evaluate the performance of the board as a whole and individual members to identify areas for improvement and growth.
I think that's a big thing because most people are familiar with like employee reviews, like, annually or sometimes even more than annually, your boss is sitting down with you talking about what you've done well, what you need to improve on. If you would do that for the people who work under you, why would you not do that for leadership as well? Because they're the ones that are captaining the ship. Doesn't matter if you have the best workforce and you're making them stay in line if the people who are in charge aren't doing that as well.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. So now I want to transition to giving some real life examples. I chose 3 organizations: Make-A-Wish Foundation, Red Cross Foundation. What is the third foundation that I found? Habitat for Humanity. The Make-A-Wish, Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity. So 3 of, I don't want to say the biggest, but 3 very big nonprofits that facilitate operations nationwide and have multiple different locations. But I'm going to pull up their leadership site where they'll actually show us the different leaders that they have, where they came from, their background, and all those things. And we can actually, in live time, on this call, this podcast, I don't want to say evaluate, but we can examine, their leadership and how, and make guesses, right, to how they, how these connections came about and what roles, these individuals play. So this is Make-A-Wish Foundation. As you see, we got the board chair, director of a bank. Got to bring that money in for that. Executive chairman for Turtle. I'm not sure what that business is. Turtle. Howard Prince Wright, the treasurer.
I feel like we're probably not going to know what most of these businesses are.
Yeah. So just a general look, we can see, are they diverse?
There's more gender diversity than
ethnic.
Well, okay, I guess we're getting into you scrolled through that so fast I wasn't reading these names. So
Okay.
maybe I'm wrong on that.
Walt Disney Company.
They're still a little bit white man heavy, but there is at least a lot of other, you've at least got a decent amount of females and just simply reading some of these names, you do have some different ethnic backgrounds in there as well.
Yeah. I would really have to do more research in some of these businesses to see if they're diverse in the industries that they came from. I've only seen one banker on here. Well, I guess maybe two potential.
Well, I mean, yeah, but he's not actually a banker. If he's with Belkin Vision, I mean, he's just the CFO of an actual company. So he has a financial background, but also more on the business side.
See their senior leadership team.
Not gonna lie, I like seeing all of those women in there.
Yeah. So that's the Make-A-Wish Foundation's leadership team. As you can see, multiple individuals from multiple different organizations. The more diverse, I mean, considering that they all are coming from different companies, we could say that that is diverse. Especially since some of these countries are international, like my guy here, the Council of Nigeria, Walt Disney Worldwide Brand, Social Trabajo Consentido. I believe that's Brazilian or Portuguese, I should say. So he is Brazilian, Portuguesa. But yeah, so we see that pretty diverse, people are coming from different backgrounds, um and that's how we're able to set that up. That's why they set that up, I suppose. Let's go to the next board, Red Cross. Off the top, two big name
And
brands.
very different businesses.
Very different businesses. Both businesses heavy in tech, though. Heavy in tech. Domino's has been innovating quite a bit with their new
As I
AI
say, I saw that
technology.
now that you can get things delivered to like anywhere, like you can be outside at a park and have food delivered, which is definitely ahead of the game on the delivery service for sure.
We haven't bought stock in Domino's. This is not to be taken as financial advice, follow your own opinion, but I would say these two organizations, definitely Apple, but that's another conversation for another day. But again, you talk about leveraging somebody's experience, vice president of internet services. She works for Apple. Okay, that makes sense.
And then you've got a bank, and I don't know what JLL is.
Investment management, asset management. So they definitely about that money. Flexport.
That makes sense
Multinational.
because I mean, just the port itself, I was already thinking like shipping kind of stuff.
Yeah, logistics.
Well, that doesn't tell us much about what that
No, not at all. I read it through it twice too. Like, am I missing something?
is. A very short bio.
So I mean, from what I'm seeing a lot of people on this board who are about managing money.
I mean, it's not
I'm
so well. I mean, you would have to for the Red Cross because of the. I mean, if you think about what they're doing, like coming in after disasters with relief and stuff like that, you definitely need that. But I mean, they're also covering that. I mean, shipping and tech and things like that that are essential to making sure things get done efficiently.
So Eli Lilly is a pharmaceutical company. So he was a senior member in
I was to
Eli
say,
Lilly.
Fibrogen to me sounded along the like genetics and that kind of thing line. I'm just making assumptions by names, so some of this stuff does make sense.
from what I'm seeing, looks pretty diverse. Founder, CEO of Pace, the largest independently owned custom content agency. Hmm. Damn, she's sitting on a lot of boards.
Well, scroll back up,
Oh,
right? That as ambassador, if you're looking at what she's doing, like, I mean, it makes sense when you see her on the Red Cross because she's working on programs to stop child trafficking and modern day slavery, and she's also helping with women business leaders. Like that's definitely that is a very service minded person for which is a good fit for a service organization.
Sam's Club, AstraZeneca.
That's I feel like is that medical? Yeah.
She worked at JP Morgan, mergers and acquisitions, and the healthcare groups. Doctor. So we got a couple like biotech, not biotech, but healthcare. I guess we'll lump it into healthcare. Nationwide is on your
Insurance.
side.
I mean,
So
I'm looking at this like they did a really great job of bringing in people from industries and with backgrounds that they need to be successful at what they do.
for sure, pretty diverse amongst genders, decently diverse amongst race. So you can see how diversity plays a, I mean, well assembled team. I mean, again, I'm no I'm no like $1 million investor or anything, but when I look at all these different industries that these people are coming from, like it makes sense why they're in the position that they're in and why they decided to have them on the board. Let's take a look at one more organization, Habitat for Humanity. Cougar Drilling Solutions, Route 21.
Nike.
Works at a foundation, investing for mission. Some sort of investor. I thought it was a B around me. Kind of got freaked out.
As somebody who got stung recently, run fast.
Man, I got stung in my lip like a couple months ago. I was riding a bike and a bee flew and hit me right in my lip. At least I didn't swallow it, so I'm definitely like grateful for that. But that was annoying. My lips swelled up. General manager, environmental social responsibility. One of the things I'm noticing is like all these big time companies have multiple people who are in banking and know how to manage assets. I mean, when you're dealing in, I think you mentioned it not too long ago, maybe 5-10 minutes ago. Like when you're bringing in that much money from that many different sources, like you have to make sure that is being handled.
Yeah.
Realty partners, pretty diverse. 2 people from everywhere. New Hampshire. Former deputy secretary of U.S.
Yeah, they're representing both the country and the world well.
Mm-hmm.
I think we do need to point out, like, we're looking at major organizations that have been in existence for a long time. So if you're starting out, your board's not going to look like that unless you've got this amazing international network.
Yeah.
But it does give an idea of, what you can do as you grow, but how to start out. Like like you were saying, like, don't just pick your family to fill in the blanks and move on to the next step. Like, look at these people, like, what are you trying to accomplish? And who do you know that can help you get to those steps now? Who has a background in doing that? Maybe it's
Hmm.
not somebody who is a CFO of an organization or an investment banker, but maybe it's somebody who has a degree in accounting and is working on a smaller scale, or, some other kind of finance, like things like that. Like, there are different ways to do it. Now, I would not recommend, if you're looking for financial experience, and I'm probably going to offend some people with this one, but I wouldn't recommend like pulling in your Forex champion over here that's trying to get everybody to invest in crypto, because you have to be realistic with what you're doing. You don't want somebody who is making all of their money in an unregulated market. You've got to have people that are going to take care of what you have, so that you don't piss off investors, so that you don't piss off people who are donating, so that you can continue to bring this money in and accomplish what you are trying to accomplish.
Hmm. So in conclusion, and select your board, figure out what it is that you need, figure out what industries you want to pull from, figure out, do these people align with your mission and your values? Can they help you get closer towards your mission and values? Don't just pick anybody and anyone who wants to be involved. Like, this is your government. Like, everybody was mad at a certain someone being elected president, but not doing the things necessary to put them in the power. And it's the same thing here, right? You can't be mad if you establish a nonprofit and you got the wrong people on the board and they're not air quote helping out and blah 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 blah. It's like, you chose the people. This isn't high school where you just trial for the team and you're just stuck with what you got. These are the big leagues. You can draft players, you can trade players, you decide who's on your team.
But if you are not careful and don't set this up the right way, you may be stuck with what you got.
Mm-hmm. And starting out, you may be stuck with you might just get whoever you can. It might just be like that. But you have to plan for the future. You have to plan for it to expand. You have to, like, that's why that terms, thought that was a great gem right there, setting term limits. Not to say that they can't be reelected, but just to keep things fresh and let them know, like, hey, this isn't a lifetime position. This ain't the Supreme Court. I need to know that you're actually doing something.
But realistically, to avoid settling for what you can find, that is where the network comes in. If entrepreneurs are not networking and are not putting themselves out there in multiple different fields and in multiple different areas, you are selling your vision short. Because it should never, as entrepreneurs, our network, and most business people, realistically, in anything, your network is everything. And if you aren't constantly building it and constantly trying to improve it and make new connections, you're limiting what you can do.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully y'all got some value out of that. Some actionable steps, man. Start to write out those roles of your organization. Start to write out a list of people that you might personally know. And maybe you just write they call it in podcasting world, they call it your dream 100. So you write down like 100 names who you would love to like interview, like your dream clients or whatever. I mean, maybe you write out a list like, hey, there's this guy who works at this bank. He's been my banker for X years. I really like this guy, good dude. Maybe you potentially want to sell him on your vision, right? Like, it's not to say that you can't sell people on your vision and they can't buy in. But you just have to have a systematic way about how you're going to bring people in. You got to know what your vision is, know what your mission is, and you, before you even ask these people to come on board, you got to know what it is that you want them to do. So you got to have those roles established. And that is all. That is all.
Till next time.
Until next time.